You ready? You ready? You! Ha 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 ha.
Is that the new chip?
Ah, cool. Which one we do?
That one.
Challenging or hardcore? Challenging? Alright. Woohoo! Unlock on the ship. Tiger fish. Look runner.
Should we use that? I think that's spider.
Spy eel.
And a rat.
Rose rats. Hammer pumpkin hammer. Atlas.
That's not very good. Atlas.
Yes, alright.
So, last time it in
Blue
fall.
star.
I want that one.
What's M?
Ball.
What?
Bolly. 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 Bolly.
That. Yep. 25 accuracy,
Can we
deflection
get
60,
it?
evasion
Please.
20. Wow, that's very high.
Can I
Deflection.
have?
Oh, this one.
Yeah, let's get it.
The endurance.
Let's get it, should we? We get it.
Wow, the ship is healed.
Let's get it.
Alright, let's do this.
Yay, I want that ship.
What do you name it?
Six,
Hey,
six,
and here you
round and round and six.
name.
Hi. Hi, someone used all those up.
Oh, what's fully check oil. Okay. What's this one? The adventure. Well, I'm human. Nice. What? We don't have much. Remember. What is going on? $45. This. Organic. Yeah, just take
We
out my throat.
haven't tried yet. And Mommy, come have a look. No, we got another. Don't we? It's hills. Okay. Today.
Can walk in. Oh. Up to. Come back. Oh, how about this one? Ship cannon.
Should we get? Should we go?
Hit one. Cannon. Air. Gun. Good to go.
Yeah, let's go.
Oh, Alright, are you ready? Let's go! A Nook collector.
Alice, should we go?
Oh.
Daddy, should we go to that one hole?
Oh no. This.
Daddy, yeah.
One coming. Two. Hang on a minute.
Hi, what's that gun and that gun? What's that one? And where's our engine too?
Go to one person.
Our ship is good. Is our ship good?
Good she, mate. Eh? What upright? What's that? Oh, this. Oh! Oh, look! Awesome! Can do it. Do it.
Look at that and that. It's enormous. Where should we go? Thinking
Oh,
now
I'm gonna
again.
get. Oh no. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, what's going on? Oh, turn it off, turn it off. No. What happened? Right. I think we jumped too early. Oh, good you. Oh, no. Ready? Okay.
I don't want it to involve. No, don't want to. Ah, sorry. Say bye to them for. We got our cup. We got that.
One shoot. And let's go right deep.
Let's don't turn out. What's this many pictures?
What is?
What is this? Get the cover off, guys. Get the cover off. I want them. Get the cover off, guys. I want them to get the cover off. Yeah. What is burger? What's
going on?
What's the gun? What's the gun? Stop. Bye bye.
Yeah, good shoot. Going, boy. Keep going, boy. Ah, you miss it. Aim it more correctly.
I don't like that.
Oh, you miss it again. Now. Kaboom! Oh dear. That's fine for us. Come on, someone take it out. No! Ah. Yeah.
Should we go where we're going?
Bye, Renee. Even this is the last time we're going. And then he. This.
Daddy.
But he said.
Daddy. Should we go where we want to go?
Giant and absolute. Hey, please not picking your poo poo. You pick your poo poo and you pick eyes. It's good, isn't it? Hey? Ah.
Nosy Bookie.
Wait. I'm stuck here. Go away. Mate. Why? Bishop and Eco have us. Now leave it. Bye to Frank Do. Frank Do Nine. Oh. Oh, look at that.
Fail.
View and X. No thing. Yeah. Boo. Ah. Lily. Yeah. Where's the right? Alright, start.
I'm pump.
Bed aja. Oh,
One tack.
I come.
Oh, we don't want it. Oh, base what?
You rat king. Some. Let's take some.
Oh, two.
2 rat. Boys, check this rat first. Rat look dungeon.
We got that gun, which is not good. And we got that gun, and that.
More people. Damn, pew pew, come on, hurry up.
No, I shoot them gun.
God damn. Yeah. Good time. Pew 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 pew. Come on. That's the way. Haha. Gotcha now.
Cute.
Haha.
You are the best.
Best.
Good activity.
Alright. Rats.
Ready?
Yeah.
But what gun do you want? That
Right.
one?
Cannon.
Then
Yes, soon.
help it.
21? Hang on, mate. Hang on. Hey, buddy. Listen to mommy or else.
Else.
No. I'm not gonna play spaceship with you. Play spaceship.
Now,
Is it fair?
we're going to a black hole.
Hey, don't rock my arm, please.
All the
Yeah. Yep.
thing.
Yeah, separate. Yeah, they separate.
I needed.
What? I got no. Oh, this is new. Oh, what? Hey, go do we. Hey. I'm sure the lights is on. Need to buy one. Oh. Ah. Option. Rainbow War. Try this one. Rock. Space station. Fight. Oh, rats. Come get.
I see. You too.
Let me see. Yep, you can watch it.
I can't have. What's that? That's just. That's just the main one. The
Oh dear. What's it?
Away.
Okay.
How's that engine? How's that?
Try to shoot.
But we want to. We really want to. Otherwise, they can't go. Really want to.
Escape.
Oh, you were cut. Hold on.
Oh yes, yes. So,
Hold on.
so. Where's the robot supposed to repair stuff? Where's the gun? Robot.
There it is, up there. Did you got one?
Alright, got it. Ah, hard work, Klaus.
No.
That one.
No.
Yeah, please.
That's the robot.
Oh yeah.
The robot out there.
Okay. A good sleep. I'm going to bed too.